Welcome to Pathways to Stillness. I'm Dr. Gary Irwin-Kenyon, gerontologist and Tai Chi instructor. On this show, my co-host Vicki Hogarth and I explore how the practice of stillness can transform the way we see aging, death, and loss, and how it can help us understand our lives as a story.
It's a pleasure to be with you again, Gary, sitting next to you on the couch. We left off last episode, episode 7, talking about life as a story, that very last thing you left off on there. We didn't have an exercise last episode that was really specific. It was just to get people at home to start thinking more in detail about their lives as a story.
Right.
But where are we going to start off with today, episode 8?
Well, first, let's think it's great that we're already on episode 8. I thought today we'd talk a little bit about, in the book there are a couple of chapters called How to Practice, and then Just Practice. And the idea is many folks, I run into people and they say, well, I tried yoga, I tried Tai Chi, I tried this, it didn't work for me. And I ask them why, and sometimes it's because of they're being asked to practice at a certain time or for a certain length of time as beginners. So, traditionally, doing a contemplative practice or a stillness practice like meditation takes place at 3:30 in the morning. All the monks and nuns will practice at that time. And there's a reason for that. They say that things are quieter in the world, you are quieter, and when you are going from sleep to wake, it's a good time to receive insights. So there's a reason why they do that, but tell you the truth, I only get up at 3:30 in the morning. Well, when I'm at a monastery, there's one good one here in New Brunswick, which unfortunately recently closed. But I used to go there regularly, and I would get up at 3:30 in the morning because it was so absolutely silent and wonderful. But otherwise, I don't get up at 3:30 in the morning. I have a couple of friends who do, though, and they've managed to build it into a practice. So, but for most of us, it becomes when we're able to do it, really. And even the length of time, when we're starting out, even a couple of minutes of stillness, of meditation, of sitting down quiet, which you try to grow it into a longer practice. But at first, as whatever you can do and whenever you can do it is great. So for example, if you have a coffee break at work at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, maybe you can sneak away for 5 minutes. Be quiet, some quiet corner somewhere, just breathe or whatever practice you happen to have, and then go back to work. So if you can even get a routine of a certain time of day, that helps out and makes it easier. But trying to, Chinese call this practice serious play. And I like that idea because you want to develop a practice, but when it gets rigid or too forced, then you don't get anything out of it anymore. You just get frustrated and drop it. So the time of day needs to be somewhat flexible. And some of these things I'm saying are come from more cultural or historical backgrounds where we were going from a different paradigm. I think in today's world, things are not at all regular for most of us. In fact, we're on the edge, and that's why we desperately need what we're talking about here. So there's time of day that's an important one to look at. How long you practice, which I kind of mentioned. I've had teachers who say, when I started out, who said, you got to do an hour every day. And I say, might not happen. It usually didn't. So they're kind of hardballing it. And for somebody like me, who's pretty multitasking oriented, or ADD sometimes, I think. My wife thinks so anyway. I need to have flexibility in what I'm doing. So I may say, I got to go do this for work. And then, I got a few minutes. Okay, I'll go and do it. So I've managed to build in the practice, but not always in a rigid way.
Yeah, because an hour feels like it could, if you set aside an hour, does it have to be all at once? Or that's an hour broken up how you like?
Well, some of these practices, like it's okay if you go to a class, right? The yoga class, meditation class, Tai Chi, they're usually an hour long, but you have a teacher and you're not go, go, go all the time. You're learning things, and perhaps you're having a lecture or a talk. So it's okay. Plus the support's there because there's somebody helping you through the hour. But on your own, I think the better advice is to do as much as you can with that intention in mind, but you can't necessarily do it, pull it off.
I should say too, for people who are following along at home, a lot of what we're talking about today comes in chapters 21, chapters 21, 22, 23 of Pathways to Stillness. This is Dr. Gary Irwin-Kenyon's book that you can find online, find in a multitude of stores in New Brunswick too, including McGuire's right here in St. Andrews, as well as Amazon chapters. Order it online.
Sudbury Shores. And if you're looking for, there's an audiobook version of it on Audible also.
When we talk about, I know we said we're all gearing up to look at our lives as a story, but a lot of that has to do with also accepting stillness into our lives, which seems to be kind of two different, at odds with each other. This idea of your brain running in a narrative form and then also being able to kind of step back and not absorb it all and try to make sense of everything right away at every moment. When you look at practicing stillness, I know that we talk a lot about the monkey brain that goes on, and there's that question I have in my head all the time was, am I doing this right? When I'm supposed to be stepping back and just trying to find peace. I can't help but have that race in my head asking myself if I'm even accomplishing what I'm trying to set out to do. How do you get over that?
I think when you're not in your practice, you can do all that wondering or thinking or monkey mind up and down, going from one thing to the other. When you're in the practice, the idea is to basically, once you are willing to entertain this, as you say, the other side of your other part of your brain, really your mind, then it's a matter of not having any expectations. And that's the paradox that keeps a lot of people from practicing too, because they say, I'm just wasting my time sitting here, so that can't be good. But we're saying that can be good, and it's an integral part of who we are. So when you're doing that, the whole idea, for me, from my perspective, from what I've learned, is you're just breathing. The best way to do it is just to follow your breath. Your breath has to come in, it has to go out, so you just follow it. If any thoughts come up, you can, like a Buddhist would say, you label it. You just say, oh, that's a thought, and then gently bring yourself back to your breath. So then after a while, it doesn't matter what thoughts come up, you're just gently labeling them, and you keep going. So what happens is that space, that stillness space of peacefulness and so on, starts to get stronger. So even if you go, because life is, in my opinion, it doesn't leave you alone. So even if you have a practice, in my view, there are times in your life when the monkey mind will raise its head like crazy. But you get to the point where you can at least sit there, follow your breath, even if you're distracted 100 times, you do also kind of have a sense of this peace happening at the same time. But speaking about having no thoughts, there's two things. One is a yoga teacher class I took at Kripalu in the States, and she was an older teacher, lots of experience, and she walked us through a meditation class, kind of like this. And then she said, tell me, how do you know when you've had a successful meditation practice? So some people said, well, I saw a light, or or this or that, or I just felt my body a certain way. And my wife Liz was in the class too, and she said, when it's over. and the teacher said, that's a wise person, because it isn't all hunky-dory, easy, simple, it's automatically going to happen. But if you can develop this idea that there are no expectations, then it will happen. I mean, it will happen. When and how, we don't know. And we can't think that it will we can't think that it will happen.
And a lot of, I'm sure, successful people might be the worst candidates for meditation because they have such an obsession maybe with control or perfection.
Exactly. I have a colleague in the States who does counseling, mindfulness counseling to CEOs. And he said they're the hardest group to teach this to because of that, for that reason, because they say, if I put the work in, I'm going to get it. You know, so when do I get it? And some people come to Tai Chi classes with that attitude too, and they say, how many weeks before I get the belt, or how many weeks before I'm done? And one of my favorite teachers will say, when his beginners come into the class, he'll say, if you think you're going to get it, go home now. And people get kind of funny about that. But that's the way it is. It's a paradox. It opens a whole other aspect, a natural aspect of who we are as human beings. It has all kinds of good payoffs, which we talk about in a few minutes, but we can't expect anything. Thomas Merton, the Trappist monk, used to, wonderful writer, I highly recommend reading his stuff. And he used to be a novice teacher for his monk colleagues. And he used to tell them that if you're just reading all these holy books and sitting there waiting for the buzzer to go off to go back to your room, you're wasting your time. You have to sit there, breathe, or whatever. They have prayers too, but sit there and just breathe and not expect anything. You can give yourself a time, you know, that's also a good thing, especially when you're a beginner. 5 minutes, you know, you might change it to 10 minutes after a while because it'll start growing on you and it can go a bit longer. But it doesn't take sitting there all day to get a basic feeling of what this is all about.
See, that's why I have to turn that side of my brain off, and it's so hard because as soon as you said get a belt, that's when I was like, I get a belt? I can get a belt for doing this. How do you tell people what the purpose is? How do you get them to wrap their head around the idea that they shouldn't have a certain type of expectation from doing these exercises? What do you tell them is the goal?
Well, one of the ways that we come to understand that, I think the majority of us come to understand that, is we need to be brought to a point where you're powerless, like in the 12-step program, for example. You have serious illness, you have loss of people close to you, you lose your job, many, many reasons why people get to that point where too many people are dying around them. People get to the point where they just sense, I can't do this anymore, and I can't do it alone. And then they start to be brought to, well, there is a way to think about this differently from what you've been doing. Do you want to try it? However they come in touch with that, the teacher or online or this book or whatever it happens to be, they say, well, maybe I'll give that a try. It's hard. Everybody gets to that point on their own, I think. So you can talk about expectations. Remember another story, I was giving a lecture in the Netherlands to a group of graduate students trying to answer this question. And I gave these examples, but I said, really you have to get there to really sense what it is. And this student said, what a bunch of bull, you know what. And so the professor said, hey, that's totally disrespectful. And I said, yes, it is, but good point. Why should I expect you to expect anything from this if you haven't experienced anything? Because as I try to say over and over again in the book, stillness is not a thing. It's an experience. You can talk about it till you're blue in the face, but it won't get you to experiencing it. Mm-hmm. That's the big paradox of it. You have to say, okay, for whatever curiosity, they're not only negative reasons. You might just be interested in spiritual things. What's that about, you know? So it can happen in many, many different ways, but it does seem to be coming to an experience before you're sensitive to it.
Why do you think that stillness is so integral to also seeing your life as a story. This is another big theme of the show, is that we can look at our lives and find meaning in the moments, and really let that arc that we can see about our life story, lead us to a better future. But why is that practice of stillness, while you're also trying to, find meaning and purpose to your life? What aspect does the stillness play in the overall picture?
This is some of my research in narrative gerontology, along with my colleague Bill Randall. But the part that I have become interested in adding is stories are about words, about memories, things that have happened in the past, things that are happening, things about the future. They're happening. But I believe there's also a stillness, quiet at the center of our story. So, for example, some increasingly meditation programs or 12-step programs are starting to include mindfulness or stillness practice, because you get to look at the stories, the words and the relationship, the characters and all the pieces of the story, but it also helps you to relax first, which may make you get in contact with parts of your story that might not come up otherwise. So it's to add this mindfulness dimension to your story that's already there.
Mm-hmm. And then I find too, the stillness connects me to my physical being too, in a way that I think sometimes when I'm too in my head, I can feel the disconnect. Right. When we talk about the stillness practice, how important are things like posture and just the actual act of how we set out to do it physically?
Yeah. I've been in classes where they say you have to sit cross-legged, full lotus position. Excuse me, I have never been able to do that. So again, I was at this class in Massachusetts at Kripalu, and I walked into the class and I said to Liz, because we went together, and I said, if I can't do something different, I'm not going to this class. And I walked in and I saw chairs, and the instructor came out and said, sit down if you can't sit cross-legged. Hey, that's for me. And that's what I do. When I sit and practice, I just do it that way. So now, there are probably reasons, I'm sure there are reasons, why posture, if you're serious about yoga, for example, there's a way and there's a reason for doing that. Your chakras and your energy are balanced better and that sort of thing. Tai Chi has very specific positions for moving, but you grow into them. So you don't have to do it perfectly right away, and you can adapt them, like the chair thing, you can adapt Tai Chi to just about anything. So I have, for example, my seated Tai Chi class, which I do in a number of places now, one in town here that the town has wonderfully got a series of programs going. We're going to end next week, but we're coming back in September, and that's held at the youth center right here. So that's the seated Tai Chi program. So you can still do all the moves, not the standing up ones, of course, but you can still do the principles, which will bring you to stillness.
Well, I catch my family doing, I caught my mom doing this one this morning when I was over for coffee. So it's really neat to see the show making a difference in people's lives already. And I know we end the show with Tai Chi, which is what a lot of people look forward to. But before we get to that on today's episode, what is the assignment for everyone at home for next week?
Okay.
Page 96?
Yes.
If you want to share your answers with Gary or myself, I put them on my Facebook page. You often put on your Facebook page. Is Pathways to Stillness on Facebook too?
Right.
Yeah, that people can
Gary Irwin-Kenyon.
Gary Irwin-Kenyon on Facebook as well, where you can follow a lot of the questions that we ask and share yours, and then oftentimes the next episode we're able to share some of the viewer responses. So it does make this fun and interactive. So I let you take it away with what next week's assignment
the responses have been wonderful. So these are explore your pathway exercises. The next time you encounter a stressful situation, try first to step back instead of running or resisting. A stillness practice of your choice will be of great help in developing this attitude. These could include yoga, mindfulness practice, meditation, of course, Tai Chi, could even prayer if you're in a Christian tradition. or some of the relaxing to stillness movements that are at the end of this book, some of which we've been doing in these sessions here. So if you see one that you would like to try, don't need to be perfect, just to get the idea of breathing and moving.
I love that we're going to put this into action right now, this exact exercise. But again, we will be reaching out to viewers at home to share how they were able to do this exercise on their own, what kind of practices they found led to a successful outcome of just stepping back instead of running away or resisting. I know
fight, flight, freeze.
It's definitely easier said than done. So I look forward to this show because my family now considers it my free therapy. So, my apologies, but it has been helpful. It really makes me stop and think about why I let certain things take over my thoughts sometimes. Mm-hmm. And I'm developing the tools, thanks to you, on how to step back and know that it's okay sometimes not to feel like I have to process everything.
Right, and just catching that moment where you say, okay, I can take a break here. That's it, right? Really, the beginning of it.
No, my monkey brain that I'm still working on is around midnight.
Yeah, well,
the one that wakes me up and says, worry about this right now.
Yeah, I was born with a great monkey mind, so I still have that.
So hence why this Tai Chi has been very helpful. What are we doing today?
Okay, I thought we'd do one called finger curl. So what you do is you have your palms turned up, and starting with your little finger, you bring it in, curling it, flip the wrist, turn it over, and when you get here, push out with the palms of your hand. And just leave a little openness in your elbows so you're extended but not rigid. And then you just do it the other way. Flip the fingers back up. Yeah, that's it. And again, so starting with the middle finger, wrist, flip it over, and push back out with the palms of your hand. Let's just do one more and we'll add the breathing. First go back up to the top. Okay. So the breathing when you're coming in, take an extra breath if you're trying to go slow. In, push out. That's it. Yeah.
Nice. Should we do it one more time?
Sure. With the breathing. So palms up, fingers, wrists. Flip it over, push back out. Breathing in as you come up and breathing out as you go forward.
Now, is this something you do if you woke up in the middle of the night? Say you did wake up at 3, like the monks do. Is this something you would do for the meditation?
I think you can do any of them that seems to help. Like we've done one that's really good too, as we've done before, and we'll probably do again, is just the wave. Breathing up with your palms up and over and breathing out as you go down. You do that a number of times. Up, breathing in, float back down. Yeah, maybe one more.
Now, do you ever go by the ocean and do this? And
yes.
Hear the waves?
Yes, there's something about water. Well, Tai Chi is based on water. Taoist philosophy is based on water. So you can find that whatever practice you do, if you do it by the water, you can really sometimes feel something.
That you connect with the rhythms of the universe.
Yeah.
Well, look forward to hearing everyone else's practices to stillness. Gary, I always appreciate sitting down with you. It makes my week.
Thanks, Vicki. It's an absolute pleasure for me too. And thank you everyone for coming out today. Look forward to seeing you at our next episode of Pathways to Stillness.